So, when you first pick up this book, The Imitation of Christ, and you see the very first sentence in chapter 1, which is Imitation of Christ, Contempt of the world, you're just wondering, okay, the world? Well, God created the world and said it was good. More so, God so loved the world that He sent His only Son. Plus, our brothers and sisters in the world, so why should we have contempt for the world that God said is good and God so loved, and that we have the people we love here? But to understand the concept of contempt of the world, you need to go back to where the world actually began, in the Garden of Eden. And at that point, God created the world in a certain order. The church tells us that, or calls it the triple harmony. So we have God at the very top, and then we have the soul subject to God, we have the body subject to the soul, and then we have created things. God created the world and gave man dominion over everything in the world. And that was the order, the triple order. Then sin happened, and then this order was reversed. So instead of the triple order, we have, or the triple harmony, we have the triple disharmony. So instead of man being in control of created things, man becomes enslaved to created things, as though we live for money, we live for things in the world. The things in the world control how we act or behave. And then instead of the body to be subject to the soul, that is, instead of the senses of the body, which is the sense of taste and all the rest, to be subject to the senses of the soul, which is the will, the imagination, and the memory, what we actually have is that the senses of the body wants to control the senses of the soul. So we have a case whereby, because we are so involved in pleasures, in possession, in just trying to please the senses, our will becomes weakened, our imagination, our understanding, our superior faculties actually become weakened. And once we have a weakened will, then we cannot live the purpose for which we were created, which is to know God and love God and serve God. We now begin to actually want to become God, to ourselves. So we find a situation where man wants to substitute God with himself. And that's the disharmony or the disorder that we have in the world. And it is in this state that Christ came to die for us, in order to help us restore back that state of harmony that God created us to live in. Now, we can't all go back to the Garden of Eden physically, but we can actually live Eden in us, meaning that we can live in a state whereby God is our supreme being, creator. We recognize Him, our soul recognizes Him as God, we respect Him, our body is subject to our soul, and then things that are created in this world do not rule us, but we are in control of our senses and of the pleasure. It is actually this restoration of harmony that brings about the need for contempt of the world. Because if you do not disconnect yourself or disconnect your senses from being subject to the things of this world, then it becomes very difficult to return to the state of harmony, for you to say that you're in control of your senses.